The film begins with Hua ND and Zhao Zigang preparing for showdown, each eager to prove whose style of Wushu will reign supreme in Tajin. Before the fight begins, they both sign a death waiver. Meanwhile, both of their sons watch intently from the audience. The intense battle kicks off with ND striking first and gaining the upper hand. He delivers a powerful kick that nearly sends Zhao tumbling off the stage. Just as ND prepares to finish off Zhao, he catches sight of his son Yuanjia in the crowd and hesitates immediately, stopping his attack to show mercy instead of finishing his opponent off. Seizing this moment, Zhao retaliates with a blow that knocks Andy off the platform, resulting in his defeat. Afterwards, Yuanjia, disheartened by his father's defeat, curls up and cries in frustration. Zhao's son, Jian, arrives and boasts about how his father's Wushu is the best in Tajin. Yuanjia challenges him to step onto the platform and fight, confident that his father's Wushu is superior. As the match begins, Yuanjia charges at Jian but ends up getting a black eye and quickly loses. Jian leaves with a smirk, satisfied. After the fight, Yuanjia vows to improve and never lose a fight ever again. Back at home, Yuanjia is punished for getting into another fight. He asks his mother why his father won't teach him martial arts. She explains to him that he has asthma and the training would be too intense for him. Yuanjia expresses his desire to learn Wushu to become stronger and avenge his father's loss. His mother responds that Wushu is about cultivating inner strength to help others, not for seeking revenge. The scene shifts to Yuanjia, now all grown up, playing with his daughter, Jade. He meets up with his mother, who suggests he should find a wife, believing Jade needs a mother. Yuanjia replies that he's too focused on building the family's reputation and doesn't have time for that right now. Becoming the best fighter in Tajin is his top priority. Their conversation is interrupted when he receives a message about a challenger who wants to fight him. Upon arriving at the duel arena, Yuanjia spots the now grown-up Jian waiting for their battle. After signing a death waiver, he steps onto the platform. He unleashes a flurry of strikes at Jian, but they have little effect. Jian counters fiercely, nearly sending Yuanjia off the edge. It's clear that his martial arts have improved over the years, turning his body to a wall-like structure. Yuanjia manages to catch him in a headlock after leaping over him, but it still doesn't faze Jian. Frustrated, Yuanjia kicks the board beneath him and punches right through it. With enough momentum, Yuanjia delivers a swift kick that knocks Jian off balance, but he catches himself before falling. Jian leaps back up and strikes with a tiger claw, ripping Yuanjia's shirt like a scene from a horror film. In response, Yuanjia mocks that attack, calling it a cat's paw, not the tiger claw. He also counters, injuring both of Jian's fists and rendering him unable to use the technique. A final blow sends Jian tumbling off the platform, and he is declared the winner. During his celebration, he doesn't notice the hater in the crowd, giving him a bombastic side-eye. That evening, Yuanjia visits his childhood friend Jinsun's restaurant to celebrate his victory. This place is special. They serve dragons. With his newfound fame, two newcomers approach him, eager to become his students. Without much thought about who they are, he agrees to take them on. Back at home, his daughter Jade sits on the steps, waiting for him to return. Wow, he is such a great father. The next morning, he challenges multiple fighters and defeats them all effortlessly. His arrogance grows as he invites everyone who signed a waiver to join him at once, since this battle is taking way too long to finish. A small crowd jumps in and he takes them down one by one, sending them flying off the stage, even knocking some out. He finished the chaos by celebrating with a cup of tea. Later that evening, while enjoying dinner at his friend's restaurant, a small army of people approaches Yuanjia, pleading to be his students, and he enthusiastically agrees. Jinsun remembers that Yuanjia has racked up a huge bill that he still hasn't paid, but his friend simply ignores his employee, brushing him off. Then the stranger who had given him the bombastic side-eye steps forward and mentions that he hasn't yet fought against Master Qian. This catches Yuanjia off guard, making him feel uneasy since he thought he has beaten everyone in Tajin. After dinner, Jinsun and Yuanjia sits down for a heart-to-heart about his life. Jinsun warns him that the new students are likely just using him for free drinks and food at the restaurant. He advises Yuanjia to be more cautious about who he lets in his inner circle and assesses them by their integrity. However, Yuanjia, lacking the emotional intelligence, dismisses his friend's wise counsel, believing that they look up to him because he's the best fighter in town. It's clear that he is not an empath. The following day, Yuanjia's assistant informs him that his students have accumulated a large bill and haven't been paying for their training. Just then, his students burst in, bringing with them an injured student who has been beaten up by Master Chen. This only fuels Yuanjia's anger further. Arriving at Master Chen's birthday celebration at the restaurant, he challenges him to a fight, bringing along a deadly waiver for him to sign. Jinsun tries to stop the violence, urging Yuanjia to leave, but he refuses, effectively ending their childhood and friendship. He shouts for everyone to evacuate and forces Master Chen into a sword fight on his birthday. The two engage in a heated battle, causing chaos and destruction in Jinsun's restaurant. They are evenly matched until Yuanjia climbs on the wall and he's able to slice the top of Master Chen's head. Now furious, Chen swings his sword more fiercely, even kicking him into the rail. With blood flowing down Chen's head, Yuanjia is shown to have been cut on the shoulder as well. Now striking with rage, Chen breaks his sword and launches a flipping sword attack on Yuanjia, even landing a kick, sending Yuanjia through the steps. He catches a swing from Chen and kicks him away with his sword. Master Chen is then eliminated with a twisting fist in the chest. Without hesitation or remorse, he did what was necessary to win. While celebrating his students at his school, bombastic side-eye guy looks at his school with disgust. The next day, still recovering from his fight, he returns home to find that his mother and daughter have been eliminated. Thinking one of Chen's students must have done it, Yuanjia rushes to his residence with a sword to execute the assassin, but bombastic side-eye guy admitted to the wrongdoing and executes himself before he can lay a finger on him. Now seeing Chen's wife and daughter all crying in despair, he drops his sword and heads home with the terror that's been done. When he returned, his beaten student reluctantly confessed that he had been drunk and had insulted Master Chen's wife, revealing that Chen was only trying to teach him a lesson. Overwhelmed with guilt, he wandered off aimlessly. After losing his childhood friend, his mother, and even his daughter, he felt completely alone, even after becoming the strongest fighter in Taijin. Months later, he's been roaming aimlessly, his hair and beard unkept, indifferent to everything around him. He strolls by the river and falls in, and he begins to drown. He sees visions of his mother and daughter calling out for him to join them, but it wasn't his time. He was rescued by a grandmother and her blind granddaughter, Moon. He stayed with them in their small village, and each night he cried over the loss of his loved ones and the guilt from his past mistake. During his stay, he learned about the village's way of life and even how to grow crops. One night, a boy from the village was caught trying to steal an ox from a neighboring village after his own beloved ox had passed away. The neighboring villagers were eager to punish him. Yuanjia and other villagers sent out to rescue the boy. Yuanjia agrees to take the punishment for himself, choosing to endure the beating until the incense burned out instead of the child. The leader of the neighboring villagers agrees and strikes him with a series of brutal Muay Thai maneuvers, leaving him hurt and submissive. Still, lost in his feelings, he doesn't even defend himself. But then, the grandmother shouted, "Even if you don't want to hurt anyone, you can't just let them hurt you." Her words snapped him out of his despair. This time, he fights back, skillfully countering the attack. Now, with the incense burned out, he has freed the boy and brought him safely back to the village. After spending years there, it has taught him about mercy and helped him gain a deeper understanding of himself. With newfound clarity, he's decided to leave and return to Taijin to visit his family's grave. Before he left, he promised Moon that he would come back once he had accomplished what he needed to do. Back in Taijin, Yuanjia noticed the changes brought by foreign influences. At his home, his assistant informed him that the people he owed money to had taken nearly everything, but someone mysteriously sent funds to help him settle some debt. To his surprise, he learned that it was his childhood friend, Jinsun. When he arrived at the gravesite, he paid his respects to his father, finally understanding why he had held back during that fight. He called him the true champion. He also thanked his mother for teaching him to be a better person, something he hadn't grasped before due to his arrogance. Finally, he confessed to his daughter that he hadn't been a good father, acknowledging that it was his flaws that led to her suffering. The next morning, he visits Master Chen's house and asks his wife for forgiveness for his role in her husband's death. He goes inside to pay his respects to Master Chen, now finally making peace with his past mistakes. After leaving, he sees a newspaper that an American boxer named Hercules has been defeating several Chinese fighters, referring to them as the sick men of Asia. Determined to defend the dignity of his people, he challenges Hercules. The next day, Yuanjia steps into the ring and is handed a death waiver to sign. He tells the ring announcer that fighting to the death is part of the old ways, emphasizing the need for honor and respect. The announcer, unimpressed by his sentiments, relays to Hercules that Yuanjia wants to beat him up. The match starts with Yuanjia throwing the first punch, but it has little effect. Hercules grabs him, but Yuanjia manages to break free. Then he aims a powerful punch, but Yuanjia dodges and counters. When Hercules attacks again, Yuanjia spins away and lands a kick that sends him teetering near the rope. If Yuanjia hadn't rushed to push him back down, Hercules might have gone flying over the edge. The old Yuanjia would have let him fall and laugh, but now he fights with a new purpose. As Hercules attempts to top rope Wushu splash, Yuanjia counters with waiting knees and elbows, declaring the match a victory for himself. Yuanjia thanks Hercules for the fight and starts to walk away. Furious, Hercules rushes to grab him, but Yuanjia counters with a devastating kick, sending him flying over the ropes again, this time nearly landing on some spikes by the ring, if not by Yuanjia catching him in time. This time the fight is truly over as Hercules raises his hand in victory and acknowledging his win. Now Yuanjia plans to open a school to unite the Chinese people and teach them kung fu instead of fighting each other to the death. He envisions transforming it into a sport where they can cooperate and support one another. The next day, Yuanjia is challenged to a 4-on-1 match, which he accepts. He will have to face 4 different foreign fighters in succession to win. After his training, he meets with his friend and tells Jinsun that he will return to Moon and her grandmother once the tournament is over, and Jinsun will take over as the head of the school. The day of the tournament arrives, with Yuanjia must confront the opposing foreigner. A Japanese fighter, Tanaka, remarked that this isn't a tournament, it's more like a murder given the odds. The match starts with the British boxer fighting first, throwing jabs and haymakers. However, he proves to be an easy defeat against Yuanjia's expert Wushu style. Next is a Belgian fighter, armed with an extra long spear. Yuanjia opts for a regular sized spear and engages at close range, giving him the advantage. He lands quick slices with his spear, infuriating the Belgian fighter and leading to his defeat. Finally, he faces a fencing champion of Europe who uses his sword style. Yuanjia easily matches his move, gently slicing the fighter's shirt to demonstrate that if he were seared, it would have been all over. The old Yuanjia would have fought without mercy, but now, going into boss mode, he disarms his opponent and claims victory instead of executing him. Before the final fight begins, Tanaka selects his Soul Spitter Katana, while Yuanjia chooses the Playful Cloud. Both opponents seem evenly matched with each strike. Yuanjia tries to show off, but Tanaka catches the Playful Cloud and they end up switching weapons. Since Tanaka can now wield the Playful Cloud effectively, Yuanjia graciously gives it back, making it an even fight. However, during their exchange, both weapons get damaged and the round ends in a draw. During the break, Yuanjia takes a sip of his tea, unaware that it has been poisoned. In the next round, the match turns physical. As the fight progresses, Yuanjia begins to feel the effects of the poison, experiencing double vision. Despite this, he manages to deflect Tanaka's punch. However, as the poison takes a stronger toll on him, he coughs up blood, prompting a timeout. During the timeout, Jinsun asks what's wrong, and Yuanjia realizes that he's been poisoned. He knows it's too late to reach the hospital, and he tells his students not to seek revenge after his passing, as it only leads to more bloodshed. Buttoning up his shirt, he returns to the ring to finish the match. In the ring, Tanaka urges him to value his life and stop fighting immediately, but Yuanjia insists they must continue. After taking several hits from Tanaka, he attempts the same punch that ended Master Chin's life, but this time he pulls back and simply smiles. Then he collapses, succumbing to the effects of the poison. The referee steps into the ring to call the match, but Tanaka stops him. Instead, he lifts up his arm and declares Yuanjia the winner, acknowledging that he would have lost if Yuanjia hadn't held back. The film ends with Moon watching Yuanjia's spirit practicing martial arts in the field. He turns and smiles at her, bringing tears to her eyes, knowing that he has passed away.